Hello. Welcome, 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 all of you. A bunch of you still rolling in. So awesome to be with you all. Good evening, wherever you're coming from. We have such a wonderful event in store for you. Hey, Morgan.
Let me unmute. Hello.
Hello. Hey, how are you?
Good. Happy to be here. This is exciting.
This is awesome.
Very exciting.
Before we jump in, there's a couple housekeeping things, but I'm already seeing that the chat is active, which is wonderful. But in order to allow you all to speak with each other through the chat, make sure the first thing you do is in that little chat box, you'll see the blue bar and click on it and then scroll down to panelists and attendees. So right now you're all saying hey to just us panelists, which is awesome. Hey, Robin from Vancouver and Daniel, Rachel, California. Yeah, you guys are awesome. But yes, all panelists and attendees. There you go. Felicia's got the idea. Okay, cool. Yep. Right on. So before we jump in, just want to say so happy to be here. And we have such a different, unique topic, which I think is so fun. And it's part of, we talk a lot about food and meditation and breath work, and abundance is another way to call all of this in. And abundance can look like so many different things, but in terms of that tangible wealth building is so relevant. And how can we kind of flip our view from whatever our perceptions are around wealth building into something that's holistic and that is positive, right? And Morgan's going to talk so much more about that today. But if this is your first time joining this series, this is the Elevate Everyday series. It's a free monthly live platform devoted to sharing unique, quirky, unconventional ideas that work. So we bring in experts across the wellness field to share their expertise, from meditation, sustainability, chefs, authors, and of course, Morgan Blackman with us tonight. So you all know these are always recorded and then uploaded to YouTube after the event. So if you have to jump off early, or if you're interested in a future webinar, but you can't make it live, make sure to always sign up so that you'll get that recording. And as a thank you for being here, we always do this. We have a discount code for all of you, and the code is Holistic Bucks. So I'll throw that in the chat here, but it's Holistic Bucks, and that gives you 10% off your order. But what's really cool this week is that it's for Sigmatic's 9th birthday. And as our birthday present, we do a big birthday sale where you can get up to 50% off on our website, and you can use Morgan's code Holistic Bucks on top of that. So really couldn't be a better time if we're talking about saving money and abundance, right? To get a huge bang for your buck. So isn't that cool?
Yeah, savings on top of savings. You can never have too much savings. So yeah.
So good.
Awesome.
So good. I also want to let you all know that we will send you a follow-up email with the link to the recording, this discount code, and more information about how to stay in touch with Morgan. So don't worry about writing any of that down. And quick disclaimer, not as relevant as it is for some other webinars, but I do have to mention that we're not your healthcare practitioners. So while we're a functional food brand, if you have specific questions about things you're going through, this might be more, just try to keep your questions more general so that we can be sure to answer them as best as we can. And
I would actually, sorry not to interrupt, but also add a disclaimer for investing, because we probably will be, we will be talking about investing as well. So yeah, everything is based on personal opinion. And yeah, do anything advised at your own discretion. So.
Fair, great point. Yeah, Morgan is not your financial advisor, although she does have a wealth of knowledge to share.
Yes, I do.
So yeah, I see you all in the chat box. Feel free to use this, talk to each other. This is like one of my favorite parts of these webinars, is just hearing where you're all at, what you're thinking, what questions you have. We have our wonderful team for Sigmatic here. So if you have logistical questions throughout, just throw them in there and they'll be answered right away. And then we'll also leave some time at the end to go through a Q&A. Is there any other logistics of things that people need to have out and ready right now, Morgan?
No, if they want a pen and paper, that's fine. Or probably not have your phone out because you may miss out on some valuable information. But yeah, just have something to jot down some notes if anything comes up. But this will be recorded, like you said. So
yeah,
no, sure.
Awesome. So without further ado, for those of you that are new to Morgan, Morgan is a holistic wealth coach whose mission is to bridge the gap between money and wellness. As the founder of Holistic Bucks, her passion is to help millennial women who tend to overspend and avoid their finances to become confident in making their own financial decisions to live a financially free and abundant life. She strategically helps women achieve this through building a magnetic money mindset, gaining power over their financial decisions, and learning how to invest and have their hard-earned money work for them. Morgan is currently a certified trauma of money facilitator, which equips leaders with different trauma healing methodologies to heal psychological traumas around money and create a sense of financial safety and overall well-being. She is also certified with the Complementary Therapist Accredited Association to provide emotional freedom technique and thought field therapy tapping services. Before this, Morgan's like, I've been tapping so much today, which is so good. Her background has been being a do-it-yourself investor for the past 4 years and have been involved in multiple financial markets, with stocks being the most significant of her success, with an average yearly ROI of 36%, which is 3 to 4 times what the average investor sees. Her lifelong goal is to build generational wealth and attain financial freedom so that she can travel the world, be financially stress-free, buy back time to spend it more with loved ones, and continue to help women do the exact same. Welcome, Morgan.
Thank you. That was very thorough. I appreciate it.
Yeah, right on. We're so happy to have you. You have quite the experience to bring to the table. What else? Tell us a little bit about your journey and kind of what I missed and what brought you to where we are today.
Yeah. Oh man. Where to start? So it started back in around 2016, 2017 in university. Really weird, but my story kind of happened from a breakup, a heart-shattering situation with someone else, and that really, it shook me up in a good way, in the sense that I sort of realized that I didn't love myself as much as I thought I did. I didn't treat myself as much as I guess as much as I deserved to be treated, and that in a good way allowed me to really realize that I need to do some inner work. I really need to do some work on nurturing and bridging back up that relationship with myself, because my relationship with myself is the one relationship I'm going to have from beginning to end, right? Of this life, of this journey. And so what better way is to learn how to love myself so that I can, of course, one, pour back into others, but I had a habit of, putting other people before myself. And so that was sort of my lesson for that specific situation. But also that situation taught me to really not settle for less in anything, in any area of my life, whether it's like relationships, with my health, with money. And I just wanted to, I really just wanted to improve the quality of my life, and knew that if I wanted change, like I would have to be the one to see that change. No one else was gonna see it for me. I would have to do it for myself. And it just so happened around that time, I don't know, that year was a year of like health trends. Like I had this really weird like acid reflux situation going on. I wasn't eating good. A lot of the foods that I was eating was making me like lethargic. I didn't feel good in my body. I wanted to step into, feeling more confident in myself. And so, I started changing my diet. I was just more mindful about the foods I was eating, how I wanted the foods to make me feel. So I shifted into becoming vegetarian, vegan. I started exercising. I started hitting up the gym, like 3-4 times a week, being consistent with that. Started learning about yoga, and then, meditation and the chakras. I had a friend at the time who, was really into crystals. I think she's actually here tonight. And depending on how woo you want to get, started seeing a lot of synchronicities between me and the universe, seeing a lot of angel numbers, things of that sort. And just everything altogether just really started to shift. I really, I went out there, I took action. I was like, I have to do the work in order to see change. And I really just wanted to live my best life. Anything that was going to help me to live my best life, that was going to motivate me, that was going to put me into the frame of mind that was going to help me see success, I was going to do it. So implementing all these different tools and practices into my life and being consistent with it. It wasn't just like here and there. It was like every day getting up, choosing to be the best version of myself. And so I say this because I was already in this frame of mind or in this mindset, knowing that like I have the power to create my own reality prior to taking immense steps in terms of my finances. And so around this time, I had a roommate that was taking trips to the bank, and she had a financial advisor. I found it kind of weird because I was like, oh, I thought I thought you were broke, to be honest. Like, I didn't know you had money to go, see a financial advisor. What are you learning? And she was like, no, like whatever little money I had saved from my savings, from my part-time job that I had saved, I'm talking to my financial advisor about putting it in some vehicles, these investment vehicles that, over time you get a guaranteed return on your investment. And in that moment, I was like, my mind kind of just like, I don't know what happened. It was just like something clicked. And I was like, the fact that, the concept that money can just grow on its own and you have to do nothing, you just put it in something. And like, I was like, this is magic. This is like, and whatever this is going to be my ticket and my way towards financial freedom and wealth and abundance. And it was interesting because it was like, it's crazy that like we weren't taught this at all, right? That I needed this friend to tell me about this. And I mean, I kind of knew what investing was, but I always, there's always this myth that to invest, you have to be a wealthy individual already, and you have to come from wealth. And so with that being said, her putting me on, I sort of just ran with it. I was like, I'm trying to be rich AF. And like, this is probably how it's gonna come about to be, So then I just started like just teaching myself. I, just educating myself, reading books, joining communities, just learning everything I can get my, anything I can get my hands on in regards to money and investing. And so that year, I think I had about maybe like $5,000 lifetime savings, put that into the stock market. It took me about a year. So I didn't just jump into it like the next day. It took me about a year to get, comfortable and confident with how the stock market worked. And I was able to double that $5,000 investment into $10,000. And this is like, I'm like 21, 22. So that's like big money for me. I'm like, oh, I just like flipped a 5 into a 10. And from that, I just continued that. I was consistent, and I've been DIY investing for almost 5 years. And I've been able to see, those consistent returns, that 36% ROI that you had mentioned earlier. And the average investor sees between 7 to 10% within their lifetime. So I knew that over time I was doing something well, I was good at it. And in that process of, investing, I always say like my financial journey was kind of backwards, because usually people will, maybe you have a family, you have kids, and there's a lot of debt, and then you guys work towards paying off the debt. And then, you do that Dave Ramsey debt-free scream. And then you become a coach and you want to empower and help other people to do the same. But for me, it was more so starting to invest, seeing how much it was working for me, seeing so much success in that. And then in my own journey, in order to invest, you have to have money. So I was like, oh, I need to start saving more. And so that really motivated me to get, my financial shit together. Started budgeting, paying off all my debts, my student loans, credit cards, my car loan, everything, building up my credit score. And so in that process, I guess leading up to last year, we had COVID. I had graduated by then. I was working in this job and I didn't really like it. I always knew that I wanted to start a business in some way, form, or fashion. And my business, I had to make sure that I was helping people, because I knew like that was just my purpose in this world, to really be of service. and to help uplift communities or individuals so that they can also live the best version of themselves. And I just realized with COVID happening, it was sort of like, what do you call it? Like a blessing in disguise, you know, as grave as the situation was or still is, that gave me time to really pause. And, you know, as I started to make that shift from my job, working from home, I really started to reflect on like, you know, how can I create something in this lifetime? You know, COVID, you know, I could have died. We don't know how grave it was at that point in time. You know, people were losing their lives. And I'm like, I want moving forward to fully commit to things that are that really fill me up, that is from the heart center. And if it doesn't excite me, I don't want to do it. So how can I create something that, you know, can also supplement my income and, you know, make a decent living off of, but also making sure to help others and to help change other people's lives. And so that was how I came up with the idea, like, okay, I love talking about money. I love managing money. I love growing money, and I want to help other people do the same. So I started an IG account, and it was mainly just to like educate other people. And then I realized that, you know, there was this whole coaching industry. I think in the States, coaching is like a bigger industry or bigger thing. But in Canada, like when we hear the term coach, we just think of like our teacher or like a personal trainer. And like, we don't really think of anything else. We don't think that we can have mentors or, you know, guys that we pay to actually help us improve certain areas of our life. And so once I realized like this was a real thing, that you can coach people, I was like, okay, like let's give it a shot. And, you know, and then I hired a business coach to help me sort of build this out. And that's how it all kind of started. It started from this IG Instagram account to educate people, but then turning that into a business. And so here I am. Long story short.
Awesome. Yeah. I love that the first thought was like, how can I overflow? It's not like, okay, I'm going to really gain all of this knowledge. It was like, I'm ready. I want to share everything I'm learning. And that was like one of the most contagious things when we first met. It was like, just, you're so relatable. And there's already so many people that are saying that in the chat. Like,
oh, I love it. Yeah.
You know, we do have this perception of wealth and investment looks a certain way. And the terms holistic and wellness and wealth, I mean, it's like, what? How did those go together?
Yes.
And I think it's important to just back up a little bit and talk about maybe you can share some of your relationship to money growing up, because I think we all have these, I think of like when we're little and the world is our oyster, right? Like anything is possible. We're like, I can do anything. I can be whatever I want. And then we get told certain things, right, about ourselves. You're like, you're a woman, you know, you only have this much money, whatever it might be. And that lens of possibility begins to shrink. And so we end up living from this narrow place of this is all that's possible for me because of these constructs that I created around myself, or, you know, that stories that we believed. And so we end up saying, oh, this is my only way that I can be successful or have abundance. And where I think, you know, holistic to me isn't linear, right? It's holistic. And so it's like breaking open those walls and realizing from this moment, we get to create whatever
it is we desire, what we want.
Desire in front of us. And then that becomes our reality. And it becomes, you know, this constant kind of circular, holistic way of being. But let's talk about that, like growing up. Because I think, this is so, we all have these stories, and how do we?
Of course.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay. I want to be mindful of time because I know I'm going to spiel on. Okay. So upbringing, just let me know if I'm like going over, but I grew up like, I guess pretty well off. I wasn't super rich, but I wasn't super poor. Like I didn't grow up in the hood or the projects. My parents, you know, both college educated, and, you know, I had everything that I needed. Like food was on the table, that was guaranteed, clothes on my back, the odd vacation every couple of years. Sometimes if I would ask for something, I would get it. If I wanted a new Xbox or something for Christmas, my dad, you know, would get it for me. But what I did see growing up was a lot of fights about money. So for me, it was more so like money is the stressful thing from young. You know, I just knew like, wow, how can this one object or, you know, this having to be an adult cause so much strife in someone's life and then cause people to turn that around and onto like their children, right? So this, just witnessing an unhealthy dynamic as to how, people were managing or not managing their money responsibly. And I just saw that and I was like, that's not gonna be me. Like, I don't want that to be my story. I just knew like when I got older, like I wanted to have my money shit together. I didn't know how it was gonna happen, but like eventually it would. It's kind of interesting because some people, our trauma can either make us or break us. And for some people, it becomes a cycle where it's like, oh, well, I was abused. And so like you then become the abuser and then that kind of passes down. But I just knew like, I guess at a young age, like just like the spiritual presence of, just breaking this generational curse, just knowing that it had to end with me. But of course, as I did get, and then of course, like I grew up Christian. So there were also some limiting beliefs that I had growing up around money already, where it was like, money is the root of all evil. And being poor is righteous, it's humble form of living. And it's easier for a poor man to get into the kingdom of heaven than someone who's rich. So sometimes you grow up, you hear these things. And then of course you just like watch the news, you see things that are going on in the world. And you kind of just learn that, it's just like the evil. It's just people and money and power. And this is why the world is the way it is. So, I had that. And I think most people growing up, they sort of get that basic indoctrination in regards to money.
Yeah.
And then, 16, I got my first job. And that was very liberating because it got to a point where as I started to get older, my parents, I realized they actually couldn't afford everything for me. Anything that I wanted, they couldn't give it to me. And actually a lot of stuff that I did have growing up as a child was like from debt. It was like my parents using credit cards to like buy Christmas presents and then trying to pay it off later, so living above their means. So then I started to realize and piece things together. And I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm not like as well off or affluent as my parents, made it appear to be. And so I got my first job at 16 and that was so liberating because I was like, okay, now I'm making money on my own. Like now I get to decide what I do with it. But because I also didn't grow up in a household where my parents didn't teach me like the importance of saving. I think like my mom was really big on saving, but she wasn't really the one to like manage the finances. It was more so my dad. And so they were never really able to save, even to this day. And so for me growing up, it was sort of like, well, life is short, live life now. I never got to spend, and do certain things as a child. So let me do that now with this little money coming in. And I just remember like every year, when you get your, when it's time to file your taxes and you would see your income for the previous year. And I just remember making like 20,000, 30,000, 15,000, like with part-time jobs and like not having anything saved, like not even a dime. And my same parents who never taught me how to save would be like, oh, how come you never saved anything? Like, where's all your money going? And I think it started to trickle on over into the years until, like I said, that around 2017 when I was in university, and then my friends started to talk to me about investing and I was starting to make those conscious life shifts. But leading up to it, I was horrible at saving. I had a lot of debt. I was sort of had the mindset of like, I'll pay for it now, figure it out later. And that did cause a lot of stress. And I started to see myself sort of in the same loop and pattern that my parents were sort of in.
Yeah. Yeah. I so relate to that. I think all of us can. And I wonder, I know there's a lot of different pieces that become blocks for that abundance coming in, or whether it's, starting your journey towards saving or investing. And I wonder through your coaching practice, like what are some of the common, because it's like in order to shift a habit and move past it and grow through it, we've got to identify it first.
Yes,
so we're going to talk about, really bringing in that abundance. But first, I think it's important to name beyond what we've seen in our upbringing. What are some of the big blocks that you see? Maybe they're emotional blocks. What's preventing us from being in that place of financial freedom that we want to be?
Yeah, definitely. It's these belief sets that are built from childhood, like you said, and not only just our parents, but also just the lack of financial literacy that wasn't taught in school, just society, what we see through the news, through TV, propaganda, through friends, other influences. These really shape our belief sets and how we sort of navigate life in the world. So yeah, it's so important that when we're dealing with money, and before we get to the stage of wanting to call things in or to start investing and putting money into the stock market, that we understand how to regulate our emotions, our behaviors, and as well as address what are the limiting beliefs that could be keeping us back from living a more fulfilling life, right? What is causing us resistance? And when we think of emotions like fear, doubt, angst, worry, these are the driving forces and really running the show at the forefront of everything that we do in our life. I was looking at some stats, and I believe 5% of our cognitive behaviors are conscious, and then 95% of that is subconscious.
Yeah.
And then, like 95% of our thoughts are repetitive, and 80% of those thoughts are negative.
Wow.
So 80% of our thoughts are negative. That is wild, right? So you can see, like, on a day-to-day basis, we're telling ourselves more negative things than positive things. And a lot of the times we're not even conscious of it, right? We're not even able to catch ourselves. So I think the first and foremost, is being self-aware, catching our thoughts in the moment. But then, of course, there's tools that you can start to incorporate. And this is something, that I do with my clients, where you can journal, really sit down with yourself and really write out where it is that you are in your life right now, where you want to be, and what is blocking you. Where's the resistance coming from? What are the thoughts? What are the belief sets that you have? And is it true, right? Is this really just made up? Whose belief is it? Is it actually yours, or is it your parents? Is it society's? Is it? And really, like, stripping away, peeling away the layers, and getting to the core of the issue itself, and really understanding that, okay, even if this is your own belief and not someone else's, it doesn't have to be your belief tomorrow, or a week from now, or a year from now, or for the rest of your life. You can decide, like, I'm going to leave this in the past, and tomorrow I'm going to start taking active steps and action into changing this narrative. Like, every day is a new day. Every day is a fresh start, but you won't know where exactly you need to do the work if you don't sit down with yourself and address what are these factors that are holding you back, right? What are the strong emotions that are at play? Is it the anxiety? Is it the depression? And also asking yourself, like, which area of your life this is happening in? Because even though we're talking about money, it's other areas of our lives that affect how we make decisions around our money, right? So if you're in a stressful environment, if you're in a relationship that's very toxic, you're probably not going to be making good decisions about your money, right? If your health, if you have very poor health, if, you're not working on optimizing your body's, functions, if you're not working on, really improving your mindset, and things that you can do specific to improving your mindset and overall health is meditation. There's tools like meditation, Eft tapping, journaling, some of those things that I've already mentioned, to really get to the root of what is blocking me. What are my blocks? Giving yourself grace and knowing that everybody has these blocks. I once had these blocks, right? And knowing that you can overcome them. It's not a life sentence. Trauma does not have to be a life sentence. It is something that you can take from, learn from, have that wisdom, and share that wisdom with others, right? And know that these I guess adversities that we go through in life, we can turn those into triumphs. It doesn't have to be a life sentence. So really just addressing, doing that work. Actually, some limiting beliefs. I have 4 that I sort of categorize off the bat, and anyone, you can drop down in the comments if any of these resonate with you. But the first one would be a limiting belief of, that you have to work really hard for money. And I see this for pretty much everyone, right? That grind, toxic hustle mentality where I have to work, overexert myself in order for good things to come my way. And that is nothing but the truth. Actually, working smart and being efficient is probably the best way to go about it. And you need that balance, because if you are overexerting yourself, your health is declining, right? Just as much. And you can't show up in your business, you can't show up at work, you can't show up for your loved ones if you are burnt out, if you are not at 100%. So this idea that we have to work hard, or with more money is, more money, more problems, right? The more money I have, the more I have to work. And that can actually be a block, because if you really believe that, then you're not gonna want more money, because you associate having more money with overexerting yourself, right? Which is not true, right? And like, I can tell you, like, I have this business, it's been doing pretty well for me, and I probably work like 20 hours a week, right? So it doesn't have to be hard. There are ways that you can design a life that is of ease, right? That is of ease, that is of flow, and that is not going to compromise your overall well-being. And then another limiting belief that's very popular amongst my clients, and just as an archetype for the world and a collective, is that money is hard to come by, right? Money is it's not a given. Most people, they struggle with money. That's just how life is. You have a job that you have a job that you don't like, and that's just, you just got to roll with the punches, work hard, make your money, try to save when you can, and then you retire when you're 65, and then that's your life, but a lot of people feel like their money situation is something that can't change. And this is probably also based on what they saw with their parents, right? Like, even with my parents, they're still in the same situation today, right? So you may see that and be like, oh, well, this is just how life is. Some people just never get out of it. I'm probably just always going to struggle. I'm never going to make enough. It's never going to be enough money. Also something that's farther from the truth. And then another limiting belief would be like, money is evil. That's a big one. Feeling like if I make more money, then that means somebody else, that I'm taking away from somebody else, right? I'm adding to the inequality in the world by me taking up more space, taking up more money, and that rich people are evil. They're not good people at the core. And if I have lots of money, then I'm probably going to lose myself in the process, and I'm going to become, like the Jeffrey Epstein of the world, or, these, like the 1% that is causing what we see today. And that is something that you have to work with as well, diving into who taught you this. Is this actually true? There are, good people in the world that have lots of money that redistribute their wealth and pour back into communities. So you got to choose like what narrative you want to go with, right? And how that's going to affect your ability to create the reality and what you desire. And then the last limiting belief would be that money doesn't buy happiness. And sort of believe this to an extent. I feel like we have everything that we need to be happy. But sometimes as humans, we reach for external things. And I think up to a certain extent, money can buy happiness, or at least financial security, a peace of mind. And I think that's what a lot of people lack. And, if I were to sit here today and tell everyone that they have an additional $1 million in their bank account, who wouldn't be happy, right? How much things that they would be able to solve in their lives by having this money. So, money buys happiness, but to a certain extent, but not to really focus on money itself. Even when I think about, I have clients that they're not happy in their job or in their career. And I'm like, okay, well, before we do the work of trying to make a lot of money in where you're at right now, like, we need to figure out how you can do something that is going to be fulfilling, right? Something that you want to get up and do every single day, because you can be making 6 figures, you can be making $1 million, but if you don't enjoy what you're doing, if you're overexerting yourself, if you're burning yourself out, then that's not really a life worth living, right? So there are a lot of people that have a lot of money that aren't, happy because of having money for the wrong reasons. And so that's why it's really important to also do the work, journal, figure out what is your why. How is money going to really improve the quality of your life? And don't base it on somebody else's reason, wanting the yacht and the designer clothes. That may be it for them, but for you, it may be different. It may be to buy back time. It may be to, have mini retirements, take a year off if you wanted from work and travel the world. It could be to give back to more organizations. It could be the power of choice. So, to choose maybe to buy organic products and not have to support, farm factories and things of that nature. So really digging down to what is your why. But I think those are the 4 limiting beliefs that stand out to me and that I see time and time again.
Yeah, there's so much there. Thanks. Like, so much to unpack. And Yeah, I'm hearing, lots of generational things. And yeah, there's so much that we have built up around us where, we look at this dollar bill, no matter what country you're in, and it's like this flood of emotions and opinions and all of that on there. I remember when I was first becoming a permaculture designer, which is like zero waste, living off the grid, sustainable kind of holistic design systems. And we had a dollar bill. We all sat in a circle and there was like a dollar bill in the center. And it was like, okay, let's really be realistic of like, what does this represent? Or maybe it was $100 bill, and people were like, oh, all these things that weren't actually the dollar bill, but that it brought up in their minds. And then we really stripped it back and we're like, actually, this is just a representation, right? Like, what could we actually do with it? It's so funny. We're like, we could use it as kindling for the fire. We could like use it as tiki, or, we put on. So it's so important when we really look at what are our belief systems and what is actually, what's real, what do we actually want to continue that pattern of thought, and what isn't serving us. And I love that you bring up the why, because it is so often that we do something, we forget that why all the time. Every presentation I do, it's like, okay, this is why we're here, right?
Exactly.
For Sigmatic, we believe functional foods are helping us be our most vital selves, right? So it's like, why are we doing what we're doing? And then allowing, money to be, and I think, you've said this in different ways, but another flow. It's like, it can be it's a frequency, it's an energy that we can allow to come in us, and then, ideally come out of us. And there's so much to unpack. And as you were like talking about identifying what those blockages are, I think so many of us can relate to the main themes that you brought up. But I was remembering all these other webinars that we've been doing lately, and it's the first time, and I'm like, wow, there's this like pattern happening where we just did this amazing meditative sketching, where it's a way, if you don't know really what's blocking you, go watch that webinar. It's on YouTube. You can like see like what is actually in a non-linear way, like through drawing, what could be blocking you. Or in the beginning of the year, we had this wonderful webinar with Danica Breisha about self-care. And it was allowing, there's lots of journaling techniques, and allowing you to recognize what blockages exist if they're not that obvious. Because sometimes they can be deep, right?
Yeah. And they can get lost in the chatter of our minds and our everyday, busyness. It's very easy to dismiss them. So
yeah. And then, okay, we've identified our blockages. Like, okay, what's next? Like, what's the next stage in coaching? How do we then move beyond that block?
So now it's time to heal, right? To heal from that block, or now that we've recognized it, how to call in abundance. But I guess I can dive a little bit into like what different tools I use with my clients to actually do that healing work. Because we can talk about it. I think there's different ways, one sort of method or route that people take when it comes to healing, maybe past traumas around certain things, or phobias, negative past experiences, is therapy. And of course, there's still a lot of stigma around that, going to get help, seeking professional help, neutral opinion in regards to your situation. And really, just like you said, like sometimes it's just about talking things out with someone else and them being able to like identify what it is that we may need to work on, things that we can't see for ourselves because we have these blinders on. So I think therapy is a great choice, but it can be expensive. I don't think it is a service that can be accessible to all. And so a lot of the tools that I incorporate into my coaching are very accessible, things that you can do on your own at home. Doesn't cost a thing. And of course, one of them is journaling, which we talked about. And definitely, I think people should check out that journaling workshop that you mentioned. I think writing is great, just like how you said, to really take the thoughts that are in our heads, remove them, put them on paper so that we can see things from a different angle, different perspective. So healing. And I think people, when they think of journaling or writing, they think they have to do it a certain way. It can easily just be brain dumping, just writing out all your feelings, all your thoughts, your deepest, darkest worries, fears, just writing it out, just releasing it. And there's something about writing that I really truly feel it's connected to our subconscious, right? And that is what we want to clear out. That is where we want to do the real work, not from our rational conscious mind, from our subconscious. So journaling is a great tool. And then meditation. I know some people are probably sick of hearing about meditation, but it is so integral. And, you know, even me, like sometimes I don't do it as much as I want to or need to or should. But I love meditation because it's really more so about quieting the mind and focusing on the present moment. Because if you've realized a lot of the angst, anxiety, the overwhelm, these emotions that really cause us to make these poor decisions in our everyday, a lot of it is coming from us either living in the past or living in the future. And so with meditation, it's sort of like closing those doors and bringing us into a room where it's just us being with ourselves, being with spirit, being one in the present moment, being grateful for you even just being here, right? And that is why the focus and attention is on the breath, because if we weren't breathing, we wouldn't be here, we would be dead, right? So it's like appreciating life, appreciating the present moment for what you have, not focusing on what ifs that may happen that 99% of the time won't happen, you know? And then the past, like it's already done. You can't change it, right? You can be self-aware, you can understand your shortcomings and blockages, and then from there, know what you need to do moving forward. But there's no point, you know, living in the past, living in the future. So focusing on the present moment, quieting our minds, love meditation for that. And then of course with meditation too, if it comes to like manifesting things, we haven't really talked about that yet, but you know, visualizations, affirmations, just repeating to yourself opposite of your limiting beliefs, right? You can think of empowering beliefs. So if you think that I am, you know, like not worthy of receiving, you can switch that to saying I am worthy of receiving and open to an abundance of opportunities. You know, of course you kind of want to believe it. So sometimes I tell people if it's an affirmation that seems a bit too far strong, you can say, I am open to, you know, learning about, you know, receiving and being open to receiving, things like that. Affirmations are great. And then another tool that I love using, that's been my main tool, I did it before tonight, is EFT tapping. And EFT tapping, it's like, it's still very underrated. I think it's like part of the underworld of like psychology. It's just starting to emerge, and some therapists are starting to incorporate it into their practice. But it's really just the combination of ancient Chinese acupuncture with modern psychology tools and methodologies like neuro-linguistic programming.
Yep.
And it's really just tapping on certain parts of the body. Maybe I'll come back and do a tapping session for you guys. Really just tapping on certain parts of the body that's going to help to reduce anxiety, reduce stress. And it triggers a part of the brain, I believe the amygdala, which is where you get triggered. This is where most of your emotions kick into gear.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure, you know, for Sigmatic products can help with that, you know, quelling that anxiety and stress, but and helping to go in and with these affirmations, really rewiring the brain. So this is a tool that is immensely helpful at making shifts, not only just at, you know, surface level, but really at a cellular, deep, energetic level. This is reprogramming your brain, how you function on a day-to-day. And so people have been using it for anything from chronic pain to anxiety, depression, to even phobias. So I actually have like a huge phobia of public speaking, go figure. And so I've had to do EFT tapping over the past year, especially with doing this business, you know, knowing that I have to, you know, speak on many platforms and share my message. And I don't have a problem doing that because I love what I do, but I still have that fear of how other people are going to perceive me and criticism and things like that. So I have to tap away. And it's just been amazing to see, like, you know, even coming to this event tonight, like usually my heart would be racing. I'm like gassy, like I can't sleep nights before, and it's like nothing. I'm here, I'm ready, I'm confident. I'm standing in my power and I'm ready to go. So I can be a testament to it and how much it's changed my life. And studies have shown, there's not much studies because it's still a relatively new tool out there, but it's been shown to be 10 times more effective than cognitive behavioral therapy. And that is what majority of therapists use. So I really think EFT tapping is going to be the next groundbreaking tool. I'm just hopping on it early and using it with my clients, but so powerful. So, using these tools, EFT tapping, journaling, meditation, I think those are like the three that stand out to me that I think should, you don't have to be consistent. You can switch it around. You may find one thing that works for you and one that doesn't. I prefer, to be honest, tapping over meditation, but I still try to incorporate both into my life. And so those are just some options in terms of how could we heal this trauma? What are some tangible resources and tools?
Yeah, that's great. I have only done a little bit of tapping, so that's like a whole nother field.
A whole other world.
Another like 3 hours to explore and start tapping, but
yes.
Maybe we'll give everyone some resources in the follow-up email with how they can learn more about tapping.
Yeah.
The way I think of it, and feel free to be like, that's totally wrong, Danielle, is the more we, like a pattern in daily life, if we're going to work out, like, I don't know, for me, I play tennis. The more I play tennis, the stronger I'm going to get.
Yes.
Right? I'm going to continue to repeat that. Yep. And the less I do it, the weaker I'm going to get in that area. And eventually, like, I'm not going to know how to do it at all.
Yeah.
And to translate that into our thinking patterns, right? We're so like, how many times do we repeat the same story? And think of that like a muscle getting stronger and stronger and stronger, right? Those neural connections getting tighter and tighter. And the more we can disengage, literally not give that energy thought, but create a new thought, even if it feels like a stretch. I find it still, even if you have to make it humorous in the beginning, like, with my clients in, holistic medicine and herbalism, if they're like, I'm so far from where I want to be, it's like, we can start saying it, and maybe it's funny, maybe it's like, I am so healthy. I wake up every morning feeling the best. I have energy, whatever it might be. And we can kind of make it, as long as
make it till you make it. Kind of. Yeah.
It seems silly, but it really, from this energetic level, and when we think about those connections getting stronger and stronger, the more we repeat it, it's the same thing like building a muscle. So
exactly. Yeah.
Tapping.
If you're not building new neural connections and pathways, then you're just continuing to build the opposite. You're building those negative, neural connections that continue to have these blocks in your life and to keep you still. So, yeah.
So, okay, there's so much to talk about. I want to jump right in to see if you can give us some, like, why is investing important? I want to make sure we touch on that. And then there's lots of amazing questions like your approach on cryptocurrency, which I'm so curious to hear about, and some other awesome things in the chat. So yeah, we'll jump into investing first, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Yeah, don't worry about time. I'm here for you guys to share my wisdom and knowledge. So yeah. Okay, you're giving me the floor. So investing, where do I start? There's so much about investing. I guess maybe you're saying like how to get started. So I guess with investing, a lot of people, like I said earlier, they have that myth that there's this myth that you have to be wealthy to get started. You have to already have money in order to create generational wealth. But I could be a testament to that because I didn't have much wealth to start off with, had no savings, had, maybe a little bit of savings, $5,000 that I initially invested. But I would say one thing about investing is, first, you want to work on our mindset. So doing all the work that we talked about prior, because investing is, I don't want to scare people. I don't want to say it's like a game, but you can be easily manipulated. You can be emotionally prone to make very impulsive decisions when it comes to money. I think 2 innate human emotions that we have are fear and greed. And either one is going to kind of take over, especially if you haven't done the inner work. And so we see that play out in the stock market time and time again. I actually just want to back up. So investing doesn't have to look like just the stock market. I think when people hear, investing, they automatically think about stocks, but investing could be investing in yourself, right? It could be, going to therapy, taking that course, maybe hiring a coach, a wealth coach. And then it can also look like investing in real estate. there are different types of financial markets. It doesn't have to be the stock market. So there's crypto, like you said, there's real estate, there's foreign exchange, Forex is another one. So there are different ways to invest your money. And I think that's really important, especially for millennials, because I feel like the generation after me are going to have a harder time to break through maybe into the real estate market and to, come up with money to put a down payment on a home. And so there are alternate ways to have your money working for you in the meantime. I think it's great to have your money in different vehicles and not to put all your eggs in one basket. So of course, at some point you want to maybe level up, have your money in crypto, have your money in real estate, all that great stuff. But I think for me, the easiest way to start investing and having your money work for you is through the stock market. And really, investing in the stock market is just simply investing in companies. You are investing in companies, betting on their growth. If they improve in performance and growth of that company, and they become more profitable, you make money in return. If they're not doing so well, then you lose money. And so you're just betting on certain companies to, over time, help you see a good return on your investments. And there's really two ways that you can start investing. I think a lot of people, like I said earlier, feel like there's a huge barrier to getting started, but you can either go with, I would say, a financial advisor. And this is like with your local bank. You can sit down with a financial advisor and they can explain to you more about, how the stock market works as well, what your money is going to be invested in. But three main questions that they usually ask you is like, what are your financial goals? Most people, they start investing for their retirement. So that when they're 65, cool, they have all this money saved up over time. They have their, compound interest working for them. Now they can retire comfortably. And then they're also going to ask you, what is your risk tolerance? Because we know that with the stock market, any kind of financial market, things are going to go up and down, right? Even with real estate, like right now we're kind of in a bubble, but even real estate somewhat goes up and down, maybe not as often as it should. And then I think, what's the third one? So risk tolerance, financial goals, and then probably like how much money you have to start investing. So that could be the barrier and why some people feel like they have to have a certain amount of money, because there are certain banks where it's like, minimum to get started, you have to have 3,000 or 5,000 to open up an account. But there are these platforms now called online investment robo-advisors, and they really allow you to start investing with as little as $1. So even if you don't necessarily have enough money to start investing, even if it's just getting into the habit of, when you do open up an account, putting away $10, $5 here and there, and then you can always adjust and scale and start to put in more money over time. But the reason why it's important to invest, really want to get to the why. Some people may be like, oh, it's not for me. I don't want to get caught up in the ups and downs of the market and the emotional turmoil, which investing doesn't have to be that way if you know what you're doing, right? Because it's not that way for me, but it is for a lot of other people, is inflation. So inflation is, I feel like I'm kind of lecturing right now, but inflation is so important. Inflation is pretty much the rise in the price of goods and services over time. And so I guess the federal banks or governments, they try to keep the inflation rate between like 2 to 5%. Really, like right now it's like on the lower end, 2%. Anything higher can like spiral a company into like a deep recession, things like that. And so if you know that over time things are getting more expensive, and then either like you have to make sure that you are investing to keep up with the rate of inflation, or that you are increasing your wage and your income levels over time. And so that is why a lot of people love to invest, and why it's essential to invest, because you want to make sure that you're beating out this inflation rate. And so most investments, like I said, if you're investing in like mutual funds, ETFs, the average investor sees between 7 to 10%. So with those returns, you're beating out inflation over time. So, $100 today is not going to be $100 20, 30, 40 years from now. And you can't buy the same amount of things with that same $100. So if you're someone that's like, I'm just going to stick with just putting my money into a savings, you can do that, but you're actually it's more work for you over time, because a couple years down the road, it's not going to be worth the same amount of purchasing power. Whereas if you were putting your money into a vehicle that's seeing 7 to 10% returns on average, or even more, you 20, 30, 40 years from now, that $100 is like 200, 400, even more than what you had put in. So that is why it's really important to invest. And it sucks, but that's just how the capitalist system works, right? It's either like you fall further behind, or you put your money into these vehicles that are going to help you keep up with your current lifestyle and way of living. And so that's really the financial literacy piece that I try to teach people. When some people are like, oh, I don't, like I'm not too excited to hop into investing and it's not a big deal. I'll like worry about it later. And the thing is too, like the older you get, the more you technically have to put in. It's almost like you're catching up. The more you have to put in to see the same return. So for someone like me that starts investing at 25, I have to put in less maybe every month or every year, compared to someone who's 40 and is just starting. They have to probably put in twice or 3 times as much to see the same results that I'm going to see. So really, that is why sort of time is of the essence as well. But you get started when you can. Now you know the importance of it, and where you can go to get started. Like I said, traditional way of investing, going to your financial advisor at a bank. The only reason why I don't really recommend to my clients to see financial advisors is just, I kind of have a thing against banks. Like, I feel like they try to, all these hidden fees. It's actually more expensive to invest with banks. They're going to sell you products that, only their products, not the best product for you. What, they sort of just want to sell you, and the financial advisors have to go through that route and adhere to that. So I think there's a lot more other options out there. You don't have to limit yourself. It's still an option, but they're just knowing that there's other options out there, like robo-advisors like Wealth Simple, or Elvest is a great one. It's actually a robo-advisor founded by a woman for women, but it's only available to people in the States. So lucky you guys. So looking into these things, and I'll give Danielle some of these resources and tools you guys can look into later as well. But that's sort of just like the basic 101 on investing. Unless anyone else has, of course, we'll get into questions. Anyone wants to get into specifics.
That's awesome. Yeah. So we're like, we wish we had this in college. Yes. It's a really important that we're not really taught. And I love the idea of these micro habits. We've talked about these all the time when it comes to self-care, and you don't have to spend an hour meditating every day or do that full hour yoga class. But where we see the sustainable results is when we spend
very small,
like these tiny little habits that we're like, oh, that feels even silly to do. Like, I'm going to do 2 minutes of meditation, but then we feel this sense of accomplishment that we did it. And so I love conflating that into the world of money and saying we can start investing with $1, with $5, with $10, wherever it is. Exactly. And then seeing that why and that importance about inflation. And you're right. I typically am like $100, 100 years ago, maybe isn't what it is today, but I have a hard time remembering that on the day-to-day. And I'm definitely stuck in the bank is the safest place. And so just starting to open up possibilities of other ways of thinking is really empowering. Okay. And everyone is like, how can I get all these resources? So before we go through and answer a few questions, I just want to share, if anyone's on a strict time crunch and they have to go at the hour, how they can stay in touch with you, Morgan, and what I know you have a couple online courses and ways for people to dive deeper. So
of course. Thanks. You can follow me on Instagram at Holistic Bucks. And then of course my website as well, www.holisticbucks.com. Either or, both are my home. Actually my second home is my mailing list. So definitely want to tap into that so you can stay educated, stay knowledgeable about, how to improve your financial wellness all around. And I am a wealth coach. So I have a 6-month coaching program where you can work with me one-on-one. I'm actually going to be launching that in the next couple of weeks or so. So that's really exciting. And I do have a couple courses as well. So everything's on my website. I don't want to take away time from, questions, but head to my website or head to my Instagram. And I'm, so open, so friendly. Just shoot me a DM. And we can go from there.
Amazing. And if you do have to hop off, I'll just remind you our little extra gift so you can get up to 60% off for Sigmatic is Holistic Bucks. So super simple. We're repeating Morgan's brand over and over again, but you can go use that on top of our birthday sale. And for those of us that can stay, I'm so curious about Sierra's first question as well. So we'll spend a few more minutes here and just say thank you if you have to log off. But let's dive into this. What are your thoughts on cryptocurrency?
times. Okay, I love crypto. I think it is an opportunity for us to revolutionize our current economic system. So for a lot of people in here that are anti-capitalism, and really think it is something that is oppressive and, you know, is just going to continue further creating inequality, I think crypto is another alternative to look at. And it's interesting that, you know, at one point we all decided that, you know, gold was going to be the main form of currency. At one point we all decided cash was going to be the one main form of currency. And all we really have to do is everyone just needs to get on board one day and say crypto is the new form of currency, you know, and so it is. But of course, the powers that be, I do think, you know, that there are, you know, people that have made an immense amount of wealth through, you know, this capitalist system, which of course was also built off the backs of, you know, Black people, people of color. And so for them, like I think of Warren Buffett, for example, if tomorrow we all decided that crypto was our form of currency, he's pretty much bankrupt. Like he has nothing. He has to start from scratch, right? So I think if you're hearing about crypto from like really extremely wealthy people, if you're hearing things like, oh, it has no value, like money technically never had any value. We decide what's valuable, right? And so one reason why I really love crypto, two big reasons actually, but the first one is there's no middleman. So you are directly exchanging money from one person to another. There's no bank in between meddling with finances, taking any fees for themselves and making profit off of that. It's strictly from one person to another. And then two, this will leverage the playing field for people in developing countries, people that don't have access to maybe banks or credit. They easily can find a way to enter this other alternative economic system through whether it's trading or through owning digital currency. And so I really think it has the opportunity to really change the game. Maybe in our lifetime, we may not see it be like the currency, but I think, you know, and why not? We're heading into an era where everything is becoming digitized, right? Technology is just taking over, AI, like we might as well sort of revitalize our current financial system and find ways for it to, you know, to be more sustainable and to be more efficient. And so this is, you know, why we're seeing the rise of like the Robinhood, the apps of, you know, so everyday people can start trading and these robo advisors, and crypto is just another piece to that. So one thing with crypto though, I would say because it's still a new system, you don't obviously want to put your retirement money in there. You don't want to save for your retirement in crypto. We still don't know where it's going. So stock market is still your best bet. There will always be companies around, right? Like that's not going anywhere. People are always going to be inventing new services, new products. So stock market is always here to stay. Play it safe, have a strategy, use a robo advisor or financial advisor, and just, you know, be consistent and put your money away and be solid for your retirement. With crypto, I always say if it's money that you're willing to lose, just any play money, sure, why not? You know, put some money in Bitcoin, Ethereum, some of these other altcoins, who knows where it's going to take you, right? But definitely don't put your retirement fund and savings into crypto. That's all that I would say.
Cool. Great answer. I'm a big fan of crypto too, but I'm no financial expert. So
yeah, there's different views, but I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. Is there any book recommendations that you would suggest for everyone here? And we could add this in the follow-up too.
Sure. Yeah, there's a lot. Well, my first book was Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah.
The author though is a little troublesome, controversial, but there's like so many 10-minute breakdowns of the book, like on YouTube, you can watch for free. But Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a great book. Think and Grow Rich is another popular one by Napoleon Hill. That one focuses more on mindset. The Soul of Money is another book, The Energetics of Money. If you want to dive more into the spiritual side, the energetics of it as well. The Intelligent Investor. There's a rad guy that I love right now named Ramit Sethi. He's an Indian guy, and he's written a book called I Will Teach You How to Be Rich. That one's a really good book as well. Yeah, there's a lot out there. I think a lot of my books when I first started, my financial journey was on investing. So, but those could be some hard reads if you're really willing to go through a bunch of charts and graphs and all of that stuff. But there's one by Peter Lynch, I think, called One Up on Wall Street. The Intelligent Investor, like I said, by I believe Benjamin Graham. He was like one of the first investors. Yeah, and I just do a lot of reading up on Warren Buffett. I was like, who's the best investor in the world? How does he do it? And I just really, when I first started, I implemented all of his strategies and his approaches to investing in the stock market, his buy and hold, long-term growth, all of that. And that's how he's been able to retain wealth and be successful. And that's what's worked for me. So, and of course, like we live in the digital age now. So podcasts, YouTube, there's so many different ways to learn. Yeah. From me, myself as well, continue to follow me. And yeah, those are great places to start.
Okay, I'm going to ask one last question that was asked by Wayne. And then I know you all have so many other questions. Please keep in touch with Morgan. Go follow her, go, send her a message, check out her website. And like you can continue, I'll hopefully speak for you, that be a resource for everyone, and they can sign up for your courses. But I think this is a great question to end on. We've been talking a lot about investing. How do you determine what companies to invest in?
Oh gosh, of course.
There's a simplified answer.
Yeah, no, that's great. I love that. This was the last question. So how I do it, I'm all about ethical investing. So I only want to put my money into companies that I know are going to positively impact, communities, people, and the planet, as well as make money off of it. I want it to be profitable, of course, but not to the detriment of our planet and the people that really build up society and make the world what it is today. So yeah, sorry, I'm watching the chat. I get easily distracted. Someone mentioned Rachel Rogers. Yeah, she's really good as well. But I also, in addition to using that as my strategy, I also think about like, where do I see the world 20, 30, 40 years from now? Where do I want it to go? And which companies are going to take us there?
Love this.
And, just thinking about it, that our, when we pass and we, we're gone, our children are going to be left over with the world that we created for them. And so trusting brands, companies, like for Sigmatic, I don't know, oh my God, one day, hopefully you guys will be on the stock market, never know, but, investing in companies that I know for myself that are good, that align with my values, and my ethics, I think that's a great place to start. And really just everyday things that you use and consume. So, if you're very athletic, you're probably really into Lululemon, as you're buying their clothes, you can maybe ask, do they have a stock? And yes, Lululemon has a stock, you can buy a share of Lululemon or Nike, Microsoft, Netflix. So I would just look at, what are the things that you use in your everyday, make a list, right? From things that you watch, things that you eat, things that you wear, stores that you often frequent, and see if there's a company for it and if they are on the stock market. And that is where I would start. And of course, there are, what you would call blue chip companies. So companies that are already established that are probably here to stay for a very long time. So like the Apple, the Microsoft, the Netflix, those companies, I wouldn't be too scared to put my money in. And those are the companies that I know, like when I'm building up my portfolio, I can sleep at night. But then, of course, you may have companies that are like startups and they're still relatively new. So you kind of have to do the work, and I have courses on this, and I do this with my clients, like really how to research a stock, other indicators, things you should look for before going into, like really going all in with a particular company. But I think just to start to keep things simple, looking at the values that this company has, does it align with yours? And really like, where do you see this world going 20, 30, 40 years from now? And can that company get us there?
Love that. Yep. That's huge. Every time I spend money in whatever form, I think of it as an investment in that brand or whatever I'm giving. And I'm saying, this is my way of saying, I support you, keep doing what you're doing. Right.
Yeah.
It's my investment for them to continue. So if I, buy something from the farmer's market, I'm literally saying, this is my token that I'm investing in you to continue on in the future. Right. And can we take that mindset into stocks or into invest even day to day? If we can start thinking about that, okay, every time I buy this brand, or this, whatever it is, it means, okay, this is an extension of continue doing, you have my badge of support. Right. And I love that big thinking too. As an environmentalist, it's really critical to think, where is our world going? And I love that. What's going to get us there? So such a powerful way to end.
Yeah, Mimi just dropped a comment and she was saying something about the CEO of Lululemon. The name of it came from mocking Japanese people, so she would never support that company. Yeah, so just like learning about things like this may make you feel like maybe, I don't want to support this company. It's really not aligned with me and my ethics, or it's really maybe dissing my identity and my upbringing. So to Mimi, that makes so much sense, and I think the same thing about like Amazon, like they don't pay their laborers a fair wage. Do I want to support this company? So I may not have stocks in that, right? It really goes back to aligning with your values.
And that's part of the initial piece too, right? We find our blocks and we find our why and our values. So so valuable, pun intended. Thank you so much for dropping all this wisdom on us today, Morgan. It's been such a pleasure. And I will send everyone a follow-up email with this recording with information to stay in touch with Morgan. And just want to thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you for having me. This has been so fun. Yes.
Awesome. Have a wonderful rest of your night, everyone.
Yes.
Take care.
Take care.